so widely used during hit-and-run raids that it has become known throughout the Navy as the Fat Boy. In comparison with the Navy's equivalent recon craft, the Vampire is lacking in certain of its specifications. It is noticeably slower and less maneuverable. However, its operational range makes it an effective weapon against military supply convoys and trade craft. It is well known as the so-called flying body blow, mentioned in several traditional narrative pilots' songs. Developed secretly by League loyalists employed in a Navy arms establishment on Selene, the Vampire is due to be updated and replaced by the Bloodletter. However, current circumstances make the introduction of the advanced craft unlikely for some time. Cargo Transporter. The Cargo Transporter is one of the most basic craft used by the Empire, as it is not fast, it is not maneuverable, and it is vulnerable to attack. Its design has changed little since the early transport runs between Earth and the inner planets. The cargo pod is simply carried in the craft's underbelly and is attached by 2 electromagnetic clamps. Civilian Transporter. When the Sol System wormhole was breached for the first time in 4175, it was a civilian transporter which made that initial journey into the unknown. Although it is possible that the original transporter failed in this mission, there is no doubt that a transporter eventually breached the hull successfully, thereby establishing the first colony beyond Sol itself. Despite the legendary status bestowed upon it by Empire historians, the transporter is now a rather mundane means of transferring civilians between planets and industrial installations. Starport. Following a series of scandals during the mid-phase of the uprising, in which Starport populations starved to death due to the maladministration of available resources, most starports now have limited powers of self-government. Operating under the ultimate control of a chief counselor appointed by the Empire's inner command, they are allowed to administer the distribution of resources among the resident population and share in the profits of the commercial and industrial facilities based there. Some starport populations are currently campaigning for planet status, although this is unlikely to be granted. Cargo. Galinar system. Galinar is the home system of the League of Free Worlds. All planets within the system are loyal to the League, although a significant number of colonial assassins are known to be working within the system with the intention of destabilizing the uprising. Certain details regarding the organization and history of the League are withheld for security reasons. Other details may have been subject to data wiping by the Earth Empire, as Galinar is regarded as the Earth's primary military target. Galinar was colonized between 4405 and 4517 AD. The Forward to Galinar group was founded in 4387 by a consortium of Earth's leading scientists and industrialists. They were concerned that the colonization program did not include sufficient investment in the creation of new food sources. Information gathered by the FA-469 research probe suggested that Galinar would provide ideal sites for the generation of protein-rich foodstuffs. The consortium lobbied for the system's colonization until the plan was accepted in 4393 AD. It seems unlikely that Galinar met the Empire's expectations, as only the planets Benay and Acheron were ever developed as sources of food. However, the system also yields valuable processed chemicals and minerals.
Galinar is under constant military surveillance from the Empire's long-range espionage satellites. Attempts are made to disrupt their readings, but it can be assumed that the Empire is able to gain significant quantities of classified information. Galinar's defense systems are effective, and yet small-scale. The League of Free Worlds has historically relied on guerrilla tactics in all its military affairs. All other details are withheld.
Benay is a rock planet adjacent to the system's sun, Evan Star. Although it was the first planet in the system to be colonized, and housed the earliest operational rain-shine artificial weather systems, its name is now synonymous with the League of Free Worlds uprising. The Battle of Benay marked the League's successful defense of Galinar in the face of a massive Empire onslaught. The League's huge growth can be traced back to this victory, as can many of its highly effective guerrilla warfare techniques. The planet has become a symbol of hope for all those loyal to the League of Free Worlds. Benay was colonized in 4405 AD. The aim was to create a highly controllable microatmosphere on the planet within which an infinite number of weather conditions could be created. Rainshine Inc. provided the artificial weather technology which was installed, although early models of their system proved only partially successful. Extensive testing had failed to detect an inbuilt bias towards tornado conditions, and a number of important personnel were literally blown off the planet's surface when a wind force limiter shut down in Era. Subsequent design modifications removed the problem, and the rainshine system went on to become an efficient means of recreating ideal growing conditions for all known vegetation. Benay's biofarms still produce foodstuffs, although the means of production are now controlled by the League of Free Worlds. In addition, a number of the farms have now been given over to the testing of military equipment.
Under Empire control, Benay was defended by a trigger response network linked to a central intelligent execution node. This system has been maintained by the League, although its operation is not completely understood. Certain of the system's functions have remained inoperable, although it is still a highly efficient means of defending Galinar's capital world.
It was originally hoped that Fortuna's chemical resources could be exported the short distance to Benay in order to drive the artificial weather systems which had recently been established there. Due to the presence of trace toxins, these chemicals proved unsuitable for use in conjunction with food production. However, they were well suited for use in engine fuel. Fortuna's chemical plants are now used to fuel League assault craft. Following colonization in 4445 AD, a number of attempts were made to skim off surface gases from the outer layers of Fortuna. Several techniques were tried, but none offered the degree of fine control necessary to separate the valuable outer layer from the worthless underlayer. A number of research groups were dispatched to Fortuna. Attempts were made to calibrate the machinery correctly, but the only result was irreversible damage to the structure of the planet's surface. However, in 4451 AD, it was discovered that suction techniques were able to carry out the task effectively. Large areas of Fortuna were subsequently encased in vast suction bins which extracted only those gases which could be used in the manufacture of fuel. The League continues to produce engine fuel on Fortuna, although sophisticated recycling procedures have been introduced.
All Fortuna's chemiplants are fitted with infrabeam early warning detection systems. These are liable to suffer data corruption due to their age, although readings have never been known to modulate beyond acceptable levels. All other details are withheld.
Morpheus is a rock planet covered by vast mountain ranges which house large quantities of mineral-rich deposits. Extensive mining has taken place, although the tunnels and shafts which run beneath the planet's surface are now in danger of collapse. A program of remedial repairs is now underway. The mining colonies of Morpheus witnessed some of the fiercest uprisings against Empire control. For this reason, its history has been subject to extensive data wiping by the Empire. Indeed, Morpheus does not officially exist as far as the Empire is concerned. It is officially referred to only as a negative presence phenomenon. Morpheus was colonized in 4462 AD by a remotely operated landing vessel stocked with human embryos. It was the first planet to be colonized in such a manner. The embryos matured within the landing vessel until they were old enough to accept sensory stimulation and knowledge accumulation procedures. No other human visited the planet until 4481, by which time the programmed embryos were mature adults who had already begun establishing a mining colony. Despite the efforts of the Empire to ensure the population was correctly programmed, the Morpheans never accepted Empire control. They regarded themselves as natives of Morpheus only, and responded violently to Empire coercion. The mines were barricaded against incursion by Empire forces, and a series of conflicts set in progress, which ultimately helped establish the League of Free Worlds.
All information is withheld.
Planetary observations. Acheron remains the only organic planet to have been discovered anywhere in the universe. It is not clearly understood how Acheron came to exist, although Empire scientists have speculated that since it is organic, it must have the potential to reproduce, and therefore there must be other such planets elsewhere. The planet's surface is made up of a dense vegetable matter which alters in color according to weather conditions. The presence of huge phosphorus lakes means that Acheron is never in darkness. Acheron was colonized in 4472 AD by a commercial operation called Future Food. Their brief was to establish Galinar as the Empire's primary food exporter, a plan which dated back to the original colonization of the system. The Empire believed a commercial initiative would have more chance of success, and while the planet successfully sustained a number of productive biofarms, Future Food was unable to expand the operation to the rest of the system. Now supplying foodstuffs to planets loyal to the League of Free Worlds, Acheron has been a frequent target for Empire buzzcraft. The Colonial Navy's largest operation resulted in the destruction of an entire year's harvest, which devastated League morale. Acheron's defenses have subsequently been upgraded to principal status.
bioorganic defense system installed on Acheron is linked to the planet's own cell structure. Consequently, certain defense functions are automatically operated if the planet's own ecosystem is tampered with in any way. Should a hostile force attempt to take over Acheron's biofarms, the planet itself will trigger the release of toxins, rendering all produce unusable.
Proteus is a rock planet supplying ore used in the manufacture of League flight craft. Its mining colonies are largely automated, as highly toxic dust is produced as part of the mining process. The mining facilities are housed in sealed chambers and are separated from the main population centers by large artificially generated electromotes. Any dust particles escaping from the mining chambers are drawn into the moat, where they are bombarded with grains of toughened diamond until they are obliterated. No failure of this system has ever been recorded, and Proteus is regarded as a desirable place to live and work. When Proteus was colonized in 4491 AD, it was enveloped in toxic dust clouds which circulated in the strong winds. Reports on the findings of research probe RD-316 revealed that the ore content of the planet was likely to be extremely high. Subsequent geological investigation by remote analysis devices proved this to be correct. It is not thought that the toxic materials which characterize much of Proteus's geology have ever proved problematic to colonists. Empire sources confirm that all mining structures were built by remote devices, and highly effective safety measures have been implemented at each stage of the colony's development. During the turmoil of the anti-Empire uprisings on Proteus, Empire forces attempted to reverse the action of the planet's electromotes in the hope that toxic material would be ejected back into the atmosphere and insurgents would be killed. However, fail-safe mechanisms built into the electromotes did not allow this to happen, although a number of Empire technicians were electrocuted in the attempt.
Proteus is currently a Category A weapon development site, and plays a key role in the manufacture of League flight craft. It is subject to a data blanketing order verified by the Father. No other details are available.
Midas is currently in the process of rebuilding its chemical processing industry following devastating attacks by the colonial navy. It is a mainly gas planet with a very high density and a large surface area. Vast areas of the planet were originally given over to residential settlements, with colonists commuting to other planets within the Galinar system. Most of these regions were destroyed in the Navy bombing missions, and large numbers of people were killed. Temporary residences have since been constructed, although life remains very hard on Midas. The colonization of Midas was brought forward by 10 Earth years as an emergency measure to accommodate the growing number of colonists within the Galinar system. The Committee for Expansionary Affairs had originally projected that large-scale residential support would be required in the system by 4520 AD. It was intended that this would be built alongside the chemical processing plants which were already planned for Midas. However, population growth within Galinar proceeded at a far higher rate than expected. Emergency motions were passed within the Empire's Council for Colonization, allowing for the construction of cheap accommodation bays, which proved to be of inadequate construction. They were improved once construction of the chemi plants was begun in 4519 AD. Virtually all surface construction was badly damaged during a series of Navy bombing raids during the 10th phase of the League's uprising.
The League has a very heavy armed presence on Midas, as current construction work is at an extremely vulnerable stage. Cloaked defense towers are located at strategic points, although precise coordinates are withheld. Deep bunker constructions are present within the dense gas outer layers. Approaching craft pass through a hostility detection blanket, which triggers the appropriate response from ground forces.
Galatea is a mainly gas planet adjacent to the outer rim of the Galinar system. The final planet in the system to be colonized, it now houses a number of League military installations appropriated from the Empire. Originally a colonial navy early warning outpost, it now serves primarily as an observation post for the League, although operation of the planet's inbuilt hardware is yet to be fully understood. Galatea was not actually discovered until the colonization of Galinar was well underway. Its cycle round Evanstar correlates precisely with the movement of Midas. The planet therefore remained hidden until its gravitational pull was detected in 4469 AD. Colonized as a Navy early warning outpost in 4517, the planet continues to operate a sophisticated early warning system on behalf of the League. Unfortunately, when the installations were seized from Empire control in the Great Navy Retreat of 4660, a number of security passcodes were lost. Consequently, about 25% of Galatea's hardware remains inoperable. Attempts to override security mechanisms are liable to result in the planet's self-destruction. For this reason, only a limited number of League military volunteers are resident on the planet.
All details are withheld.